1. I previously told you the story of when Kevin married my sister and his first trip to New York City. What follows are other interesting stories of Kevin. Kevin's first daughter. My sister was so happy to find out that she was pregnant and let everyone know I was happy to be an uncle. The question was what the baby's name would be, and my sister was picking some alright names, while Kevin was really excited to name the baby Jiraiya, if it was a boy. Jiraiya is the name of a character from one of his favorite animes. The baby turned out to be a girl and was given a good name. While my sister was in labor, Kevin had bronchitis. When the baby was born, my sister asked Kevin to read the baby some books made for babies. And he was mad because he couldn't read baby books because he can't read anything. A few days later, he told me that he had read a Star Wars book. The pandemic and Kevin's jobs. 3 years into his electrician job, the pandemic hit, and the hours of his job got a little longer. He quit the job and was open to get a new one. The first new job this guy got was unloading pressurized train cars, but did not read the instructions on how to open up the car, so the liquids started shooting out everywhere. He had many more jobs after he quit that, or got fired from each one. My sister said that he had 15 to 17 jobs in the summer of 2020. His job switching got slower recently, with only having 4 jobs this year. The current one is working at a paper factory. Kevin versus phones. Kevin breaks so many phones. After getting gas, he just forgets them on his car roof and drives off. He goes back each time to find the phone in 2 or 3 pieces. Once we gave him my sister's really girly purple Galaxy flip phone. He broke that as well. He is currently out of a phone. Kevin and getting injured. Kevin was doing some weed whacking, no, not that kind, one morning, and decided to take off his shirt. He hit poison ivy, and it went all over his body. He was allergic to poison ivy and had to go to the hospital. He also, somehow, hit the bone at the bottom of his spine. He refused to go to the doctor for 3 days, and the next day it started to hurt so bad that he had to go to the hospital. The hospital really didn't do anything and sent him home. After that, he was fine. Kevin and his D&D friends. Kevin went out every Friday night to play D&D with his friends. He would miss anything to play literally anything. The D&D group eventually broke up because one of them found out someone else in the group was with their sister. Kevin's Kevinness. Kevin has a strong opinion about everything, even if he doesn't understand it. We were once talking about Star Wars because of his Star Wars-themed D&D game, and he started telling me some weird conspiracy theory on how George Lucas didn't actually make the movies, and there was someone else's concept and George Lucas only took the credit. The only Star Wars experience he had was the Han Solo movie, and the book he claims he read but probably didn't read. He also spoke about how stalking celebrities is a morally grey action, because how else are you gonna see them? Kevin's second daughter. He wanted to give this baby weird anime names again. If it was a boy, he got to name it. The names he came up with were Odysseus and Jiraiya again. The main problem is that he can't even spell Odysseus. When they found out the baby was a girl, he came up with the name Ophelia, which was from an obscure anime from 2006. He had bronchitis during this baby's birth as well. My sister gave the baby a pretty good name this time as well. Lastly, Kevin and the Icy Hot. A few days ago, Kevin came home from work at the paper factory tired and sore. He decided to rub Icy Hot all over the upper part of his body, and when that didn't work, he did it again. He had to go to the hospital due to harsh pain in his skin. At the hospital, he was losing so much liquid he couldn't lay down on his back without agonizing pain everywhere. It turns out he had 2 types of influenza, and the doctors said the Icy Hot made the influenza much, much worse. Thank you for listening to this whole thing if you did. Kevin will definitely continue to do stuff like this. 2. Walmart Storytime. I used to work at the oh-so-famous Wally World as a jack-of-all-trades position. The kind that they stick me wherever they need me within reason type. For the most part, I had no problem with this when I was there, because it meant that every day I had something new for me to do. So for the players in this story, we have the nice wife, the Kevin of a husband, their two mini Kevins, the floor manager and the assistant manager. On the day of this story, the management team had me in food straightening the aisles, just pushing products up and making them look presentable. I was in the condiments and coffee aisle when a family approached me. "Hello, sir. Can you show me where the hot dog relish is?" "Sure thing, just follow me." I start guiding them down the aisle, making sure to scan every shelf because I didn't know where it was. As I spotted it, I told the wife and her family, "Here it is, guys. Thank you for helping." I'm giving off that customer service smile as I say, "No problem, have a nice day." I walk back to where I originally was and continued working, as I heard the family continue talking. "Okay guys, we're ready to go," says the wife.
"I don't like how that guy talked to you,"
says Kevin. "What are you talking about? He helped us."
"No, he talked to you like we were idiots. Here it is, guys. I'll show him to treat us better."
He didn't do anything wrong. Before she could stop him, Kevin puts his arm into one of those shelves and starts dragging it across, making sure to have the items drop off the shelf. I turn quickly because I heard items hitting the ground and glass breaking. Kevin smirks and looks at his kids and says,
"Follow what Daddy does."
Before the wife can protest, all three of them just let loose on the aisle, breaking countless products. All of the noise brings attention from the floor manager of that aisle, who runs down to see the mess and loudly asks, "What is going on?" Kevin then starts proclaiming how I was being an ass, and how I was putting down his family and making him look like an idiot, while his wife repeatedly says, "No, he didn't." The floor manager comes to me with a shocked look and asks what happened. I tell them my side of what happened. He then radios one of the assistant managers to look at the cameras, and then tells me that he will be back in a moment. Floor manager tells Kevin and his family just to wait while he gets upper management to handle the situation. Kevin has a smirk on his face. I think that he had thought that I'll be fired for my attitude. A few minutes later, the assistant manager and floor manager show up with security.
"Hello, sir,"
says the assistant manager. "After reviewing the cameras, we have come to the conclusion that you and your family will be banned from our store immediately." Kevin looks shocked.
"But your associate treated us like we were idiots."
"That might be true, and we will deal with him accordingly, but that doesn't exclude the behavior you and your kids were showing and destroying Walmart property. Please follow our security team and they will escort you out of the store." Kevin and his family then follow security out while his wife hits him in the head and yells, "Now you look like an idiot!" The assistant manager then comes and tells me that nothing will happen to me, because the cameras and how the wife kept telling the floor manager that I didn't do anything wrong matched up. The rest of the time I was at that Walmart, I didn't see that family again, but I was told by the assistant manager that they did have to pay for what they broke. 3. Boy, where do I begin? So I'm a 24-year-old female, and I met my friend Kavina, 25-year-old female, at a warehouse job 5 years ago. We were the only two girls in the warehouse except for the office ladies upstairs, who we never saw, so we became fast friends. Let me just preface this by saying she has a heart of gold and is extremely generous. And she is now part of my small friend group of 15 plus years because she's very lovable in a strange way, so she fit right in. The first day I met her was the first day at that job. Later found out she was also new, as she had only been there 2 weeks when I arrived. Well, I was sat in the packing room learning the ropes, wearing my black jeans and black t-shirt because I figured I would get dirty on the job. I did, it's a warehouse, so... Kavina walks in wearing pure white, thin leggings and a floral top. Bright pink handbag on her arm. She parades in with a, "Morning, guys." If you're from the UK, she's from Birmingham. We're in the West Country, she moved here. She heads to the computer to clock in, bends over the desk to do so, flashes her underwear clearly through her white leggings. I was sat there like, well, I admire this gal's confidence for sure. So we became friends on that first day, like I said, only 2 women there. And man, have I got more stories about her than I could include in this one post. She's a whole 10-book saga. My earliest memory of her being, well, her, was when I was in the factory floor office, which, unlike upstairs, was all male office men, and I was grabbing some paperwork for a build. I would hear all sorts of conversations from these office lads while I would be in there getting something, and that particular day, for some reason, they were talking about hemorrhoids. Well, in walks Kavina to also get paperwork, and she's a curious creature, so says, "What are you lot talking about?" An office guy says,
"Hemorrhoids."
Kavina bellows out, "Oh, I have them." The entire office went silent and looked at her. She goes, "You ain't too much cock up the ass." Turns around and walks back out with the paperwork. This was when I realized she was really something. Another memory from that particular workplace that actually came up much later was the fact that when we worked there she was 20, but we all thought she was 21 because she told us she was 21. So when her birthday rolled around June 10th, we believed her to be turning 22, of course. Wished her a happy birthday and whatever. We had a tradition in that place that on your birthday, or usually the day you work nearest to your birthday, because people usually book the actual day off, you would bring in cake for everyone, and by doing that, you could eat the cake all year round that was there for all the birthdays, because you just provided your own. It was cleaner that way. Kavina didn't bring in cake, even though she would always eat cake on other people's birthdays. But we thought, oh well, she can barely remember our names, let alone buy cake on the way to work. Fast forward a couple of years later, we're good friends and she invites me to Amsterdam with her and her friends. I say yes and we start preparing. We're at the travel agency booking everything, and she has her ID on the table ready. I take a glance, her birthday is November 22nd. So we finish up and leave, and I said, 22nd November? I thought your birthday is 10th of June. She casually goes, "Oh no, it's not. I just didn't want to pay the pension." I just stared at her. "Pension?" she says. "Yeah, because if you're under 21, you have to pay the pension at work, but if you're over 21, you can choose. So I had to say my birthday was different to make me 21. I wanted all of my pay and I didn't want to pay it to pension." I said, 1, that's not true at all. Why did you think it was? And 2, you do realize workplace HR knew your birthday anyway? Because you brought in your passport to photocopy on your induction day, just like me. The only people you told were 21 was us, the packing department. So it made no difference. She just says, oh yeah. Fuck's sake, I had to come back to work on my real birthday and spend my 21st packing boxes and pretending it's not my birthday, when I didn't have to pay the pension all along? What? This post is getting long, but I have hundreds of stories from the time I spent an entire week in Italy, told her I was in Italy, sent her pictures of Venice, and she says, "Nice pictures, isn't that France?" To the time that she browsed adult websites on her work computer on work Wi-Fi, because she thought that Jeff the forklift driver was an adult film star. 4. This happened in 2014. I worked for an Indian couple about the same age as me, and had met the husband because we both studied astronomy at the same university. He offered me a job at their store, which was closer to campus and offered to pay me slightly above minimum wage, so I was happy to accept when they invited me to meet their yogi outside of work. They follow some small yoga cult that I won't even try to explain because it involves magic diaries and a guy who psychically monitors your mental health. I ride with them to a large city 2 hours away, and am surprised to find that this religious leader I was meeting was an extremely pregnant 22-year-old white suburban mom who hosted private meditation sessions in her living room while entertaining her toddler son. This is our Kavina. Fun side note, her husband wound up being a storyboard artist for a particularly amazing animated show that had just become massively popular at the time. And he showed me the ultra-violent Cubist lesbian erotica comic that had allegedly earned him the job, so that was neat. And no, I won't elaborate on what show it was. The Kevinry. Now, the first step to this meditation crash course was for Kavina to just have a casual conversation with me, to get to know me a bit. Fair enough. We get to talking about how Boss and I had met during astronomy class, which triggers the following conversation. "Oh my god, I love astronomy. You know, I bet you can't guess what we're naming this one when he's born." gesturing at her belly. Oh, there are a ton of great astronomers you could name him after. So I wouldn't have the slightest clue what to guess. What did you pick? You have to guess. I'll give you a hint. It's the biggest star. Oh, so something relating to VY Canis Majoris? That's pretty cool. Kevina looks at me like I'm speaking gibberish. Huh? No, that's not a star. We're naming him Sirius. It's the biggest and most important star in the whole sky. Oh, okay. Sorry. That's still cool, though. But what do you mean by most important? I thought you studied this. Sirius is the highest level of star. It's got the most points possible. I'm sorry. What? I don't follow. It's simple. So you study stars, right? So you know that most of them are just basic 5-point ones, some are bigger 7-point stars, but they're rare and more powerful. But Sirius is the only 9-point star. It's like the king of stars. I should point out that I can be kind of a dick when it comes to people saying stupid things, and by this point it's become physically painful trying to contain my laughter. But I was less successful at containing my sarcasm. Oh, that's weird, because in astronomy, stars are physical objects that are basically just huge 3D blobs of superhot plasma, big enough to fit thousands of Earths inside of them, not the little shapes you draw. I think the points are just to represent the general shape of a twinkling point of light, you know? Sirius is still a good name, though. I was genuinely trying not to insult the kid's name or be rude, but didn't want her to take my correction the wrong way. Huh? That's dumb. If stars were like that, then shooting stars would be way bigger. I look at the boss with an "is she serious" expression on my face. He looks at me with a look of embarrassment. The shooting stars aren't actually stars. They're meteorites, little chunks of rock and dust burning up as they pass through Earth's atmosphere, and only occasionally leaving behind big enough chunks to find on the ground. We get a really big one every several 100 million years or so, that's a few kilometers wide and causes a lot of damage. Like the one that killed the dinosaurs, but mostly they're tiny. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You should get your money back from that school. At this point, seemingly mistaking my incredulity for embarrassment, Kevina gets back to the whole meditation thing, and the rest of the visit goes on in awkward meditative silence. Boss never invited me to a second meditation, and I don't know if he was more embarrassed about her beliefs or my willingness to argue over them. I'm still flabbergasted by the fact that this woman is apparently seen as a perfectly reasonable religious leader by a guy who literally majored in astronomy and physics. 5. For some context, I work as a train dispatcher at a station where my signal box is right between the platforms. To make things simple, I have platforms 1, 2, and 3. To get to platform 3, you need to walk over the tracks of platform 2. Platform 1 was all the way on the other side of the station and was nothing to do with the rest of this story. So you're only allowed to go there when a train arrives there. The rest of the time we have a chain to block people's path and signs to tell people to stay away when the chain is closed. Both as a picture and in writing. But because Kevins and entitled people above the rules exist, we need to walk out and make sure that no one runs over the tracks whenever there's a train coming in on platform 2. If we don't and someone gets killed out of their own stupidity, we face prison time. On to the story. It was sometime in between lockdowns, and I worked the evening shift, and it was already dark, around 11 p.m., not long until closing time. A cargo train transporting trailers, think flat carriages with the trailers on top, and some empty carriages in between, was coming closer, so I set the signals that they could just drive through. This train was supposed to drive over platform 2, and it did. Shortly before the train arrived at my station, I went outside to make sure no one was on platform 3 or on the tracks. Enter Kevin and his friends. A group of maybe 5 teenagers was hanging around the waiting area, and came closer as they saw me leave the building. Most passengers know that me walking out means the train is arriving. These boys were the only people other than me at the station. we don't see many passengers here, which makes it nearly okay that we have to interact with them whenever there are questions, even though that's not our job.
Guys, come on, our train arrives.
Nope, actually not. Yours will arrive in 10 minutes, though.
Doesn't that one go to the next station?
It does, but it's a cargo train. Kevin looked disappointed but shrugged and walked back to his friends. The train arrived, going through the station with 60 to 80 kilometers an hour, and as soon as it got on the path over the tracks, I started walking back to my warm signal box. I had nearly reached the door as I heard Kevin loudly addressing his friends.
I don't want to wait. Let's just take that one. Come on.
I turned around, not expecting anything. It's a bunch of teenage boys who want to be cool, but Kevin actually walked towards the train, his eyes fixated on an empty carriage. His friends followed, but more reluctantly. Peer pressure is a bitch. I started worrying, but still kinda hoped he stopped and had a good laugh. Nope. Kevin got faster, and I was too far away to grab him. Grabbing him would also come close to assault, so not a good idea anyway. I couldn't stop the train in time to prevent Kevin from killing, or at least severely hurting himself. But maybe I could stop Kevin. Kevin stepped on the white line that you shall not cross, especially when there's a train driving through. "Hey!" I yelled as loud as I could, while starting to come closer again. I wouldn't go to prison for that little butt munch. Kevin and his friends hadn't realized that I was still standing outside, so they got startled and jumped backwards, before turning around to me. I gave them my best death glare, and the boys understood, walking back to the waiting area. I still waited outside until all 500 meters of the train had passed through. I left my station just to make sure Kevin wouldn't have another stupid idea. As their train arrived, 10 minutes later, I watched them approach and enter really closely, because after the stint with the cargo train, I didn't trust Kevin not to try and jump in this train before it came to a stop. He actually looked like he was thinking the same thing, but actually waited until the doors were open so he could enter. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to A Cacophony of Kevins, Episode 4. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Okay, let's see, what day is it? Can't remember, doesn't matter, I think it's Thursday. And we have no special shoutouts today, so let's go right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, and I think I'm stealing this from one of my moderators, I think it was Shigar that had the idea, and this is about fusion cooking. Right, what is a dish you enjoy? I know another food one. Work with me here. What is a dish you enjoy that you would like to see cooked with the methodology and practices of another culture? Like, I love haggis. One of my favorite dishes is haggis with buttered beans kind of mixed in together, right? It's one of my favorite foods. And it's a very Scottish food. Now, I'd be very curious, and I think it would lend itself well to Indian cooking, right? And that's kind of a wide scope. There's a lot of different techniques, a lot of things you could add, but I'd be very curious as to what the basic haggis recipe with butter beans, because that's what I like, would be like approached by Indian cuisine. Or what would a haggis taco be like? Right? You wouldn't just put haggis in a taco, you'd put other seasonings and things in there. You get the idea. So, what are some of your thoughts? Please leave your ideas in a comment below. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.